This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Hindu.
Karunanidhi puts politics behind and family forward as he meets Kannimozhi in Tihar jail a day after the apex court denies her bail. Chief Minister Jayalalitha wants Dr. Manmohan Singh to intervene and rescue 23 fishermen allegedly in Sri Lankan Navy custody. Yet another reshuffle of officials, this time Rajesh Lakhoni and Swaran Singh feature in the 28 new postings. They were sanctioned 16 lakh rupees each, but in these inflationary days, our politicos seem to have spent much less.
It's not believable, these kind of figures, because they need to substantiate these figures with actual proof, because otherwise the common man is definitely not going to believe them.
A district educational officer who came to mediate was held hostage by parents and then let off after he gave in to their demands. Meet MLA Nalathambi, who says problems in his constituency are neither new nor unmanageable. Ilayya Thalapathy Vijay's birthday wish list to all fans: pledge eyes, donate blood. And get off the wall, sing, hum a note and play your instrument. It's World Music Day today. Welcome to the Late Night News on NDTV Hindu. I'm Evelyn Matthew, bringing you all of the day's top stories. A quick look at the national headlines as well. The first UPA meeting in a year takes place today, but the Parliament's monsoon session is delayed till the 1st of August. NDTV learns that Dr. Singh and Sonia Gandhi had a one-on-one on Sunday to discuss cabinet reshuffle expected in July. A young girl raped in Uttar Pradesh commits suicide, the 8th victim in 48 hours. The State Human Rights Panel steps in. Mayawati defends herself. The government is going back on its word, says an angry Aruna Roy, on the move to keep the CBI out of the RTI. Will take it up with Sonia Gandhi. Activist Ansar says Indian sailors on the MV Suez could be back home as early as Friday. They're on their way to Karachi first. And the board is sitting on a golden hen, but there is no one to market the IPL, says Lalit Modi. Our top story tonight: it's been over a month after the State Assembly election results were out, but looks like there could be more questions now about the assets and the money that was being pumped into campaigning this year. The Election Commission released details of the poll expenditure of the winners in all 234 Assembly constituencies today. In fact, Chief Minister Jayalalitha is leading the pack, having spent close to 9.5 lakh rupees, closely followed by the DMK's General Secretary K. Anbaragan, who's emptied almost 8,45,000 rupees. Significantly, this is higher than his chief, M. Karunanidhi, who spent 4.47 lakhs in comparison. The AIADMK's KP Kandan, the winner of the biggest assembly constituency, has an expenditure slated around 8,04,000 rupees. Now, meanwhile, leader of the opposition and the DMDK chief, Vijay Kant, who contested from Rishivandiam, has had election expenses amounting close to 7,97,000 rupees. The DMK treasurer, M.K. Stalin's accounts stand at around 3,32,000 rupees. Overall, even the losers have outdone the winners in expenses, but here on, the poll expense limit is now fixed at 16 lakh rupees for each candidate. And we caught up with citizens of Chennai to get a sense of what they really think about today's announcement. Here are a few voices.
We don't believe in the figures, whatever they have submitted to the election commissions, like 9 lakhs or 2.5 lakhs or 4 lakhs. Definitely a lot of black money might have involved, which won't come into the account.
If at all it's going to be the true, it's a very less amount what we figure out.
It's not believable, these kind of figures, because they need to substantiate these figures with actual proof, because otherwise the common man is definitely not going to believe them.
Across India, everybody knows that the statistics which were given by these people were false, and I don't believe in this.
It should be in the crores only. So the figures are given by the parties. We can't just believe. It should not be in the lakhs. It should be in the crores.
Election Commission release பண்ண amount வந்து might be ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ணது வந்து தட் இஸ் பார்ட்டி ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ணது வந்து அதிகமாக இருக்கும்னு தோணுது எனக்கு.
The numbers can be more, and I don't believe this is too less. 9 lakhs or 4 lakhs is very less and compared to the amount of promises that they make. So looking at the correct corruption and all those things, it will be more.
These figures given out by the Election Commission, I don't think so it would be a true fact. And nobody really knows how much money was actually money laundered in this case. I believe most of the parties have spent a lot of money.
Now, our executive editor, English News, Sanjay Pinto, spoke to an eminent panel about the mind-boggling numbers that were released by the Election Commission today and thought out loud about the possible disparities.
Sarath, on a lighter note to you first, do you feel suitably powerful now that you know that Karunanidhi spent just a little over what you spent for the election?
Not at all. I know for sure those figures are not true.
All right. But on a more serious note, Chris, to you first. Now, we were told, at least it was reported extensively, that when first-time seekers of tickets for the election were interviewed by their respective parties, the first question many of them were asked is, how much can you cough up for the election campaign? And those who said that they could cough up about 3 crore rupees, which is more than 18 times the official prescribed limit of 16 lakh rupees, some of them managed to get tickets. Now, after all this has come out in the public domain, here comes this declaration. Would you, as a transparency and accountability network professional, take this with a barrel of salt?
Certainly, it sounds like a joke, a big joke on the citizens.
Now, we know the amount of money that was seized during this, amount of cash running into several crore rupees that was seized during this big election. We know what happened also in previous by-elections. Now, where exactly is the catch, sir? Do we probably, have we lost sight of some little asterisk at the bottom of that website which says probably like discount sales conditions apply?
Actually, there are two types of election expenditure. One is the permitted one on the campaigning, the other one is the illegal expenditure. For example, bribing of voters or giving them liquor, etc., is illegal expenditure. But even the other one has to be, of course, within permissible limits. Now, what possibly has happened is that this illegal expenditure, it's difficult to account for, in the sense that obviously it is checked. If it is checked, cases might be booked. That is, if someone is caught in the process of distribution, then cases might be booked, and therefore the further flow of money gets arrested. So that would not have been reflected in the accounts. Even for the permissible items of expenditure, apparently there has been underreporting by the candidates.
Chris, we saw the assets thanks to organizations such as yours, Transparency International, where candidates were forced to actually come up with their, of course, criminal candidates were, at least an attempt was made to throw the spotlight on them. Also, the assets of candidates. Now, I can tell you, like the assets, Jayalalitha's assets, which were declared in the 2011 before the election, 51 crore. Karunanidhi 41.13 crore. Stalin 1.12 crore and Vijaykanth 47 crore. These were the declared assets of these candidates. Now, when you look at overall of the over 1,600 odd candidates, or perhaps more than that in the fray, if you look at the average assets of all these candidates, there's a huge gap between their assets. In other words, their propensity and capacity to spend and actually what they have spent. Are they such tight fists when it comes to their own careers?
Absolutely not. As Mr. Naresh Gupta said, it looks like a gross, very highly distorted reporting of the figures or declaration by the candidates. This needs a serious relook, otherwise our democracy is in jeopardy.
Yes, Sharath.
I have inquired, just to know how much, approximately a candidate spends to win or, lose closely. It is somewhere around 6 crore, 5 crore they spend for each MLA constituency. So, so that's the kind of figure they spend.
All right, Mr. Naresh Gupta, sir, the Election Commission had put various checks and balances in place, and one must give credit where it's due. In fact, the hero of this election, perhaps in Tamil Nadu, was Praveen Kumar, the Chief Electoral Officer. But this is one area we need to really ask the tough questions. We were told that there would be an expenditure monitoring cell comprising officers from the Income Tax Department, from the Audits and Accounts Service, and other officers from the Indian Administrative Service. Now, they were supposed to maintain a shadow register of expenditure. If that were the case, can't the Election Commission now at this stage tally that shadow register with the declaration and then probably call their bluff?
No, actually that was supposed to be done then and there. That is, when the accounts were submitted, the figures were to be checked with the shadow register entries, and if there was a discrepancy, then it would be pointed out to the candidates. Now, what possibly has happened is that the illegal expenditure would not have been accounted for, because obviously if money is being given to voters, the candidates will not admit that. The officials, if they have checked it, then obviously distribution would have been arrested. If they were not able to, then distribution would have taken place, but without it being booked. Obviously, booking is not possible in such cases.
All right, one final question to Mr. Gupta, sir. Now that we know that this is almost a joke being played on the electorate, is there anything that the Election Commission can do now to actually verify what they've actually spent? I know it's a sped arrow, so that at least these parties will be told that, listen, you can't really fool us all the time.
The Election Commission can certainly go through the accounts, but unless the official machinery in the constituencies and the districts have verified this, now it will be too late to take any action. But coming to Mr. Krishdev's point that the ceiling on expenditure needs to be enhanced, the question is, whatever be the ceiling, still there may be a tendency to spend much more. For example, it was mentioned that they have spent 5 crores by Mr. Krishdev himself. Secondly, again it may distort the level playing field, because the candidates who do not have resources, who do not have the backing of a big organization, big party, will certainly be able to spend 1 crore, and therefore will stand at a handicap. So also state funding of elections is not a solution, in the sense that there are always pros and cons. Despite state funding being there in some countries, the candidates or the parties still spend a huge amount. So again, and then the other problem is it will be a big drain on the exchequer, whether central or state, or both the central and the state governments. So that also is and also how does one monitor whether the amount is really being spent for election expenditure.
Moving on, in yet another emotional reunion between an indulgent father and his favourite daughter, when Kannimari met Karunanidhi at the Tihar jail, where she has been held for a month now. The DMK patriarch also met the former telecom minister A. Raja and Kalangya Television's managing director Sharath Kumar. A meeting with his daughter also took place separately, which went on for over an hour. This comes a day after the accused in the 2G scam Kannimari was refused bail by the Supreme Court just yesterday. The DMK leader is on a 2-day trip, and on his visit to Tihar was accompanied by his wife Rajati Ammal, who is currently camping in the capital. Kannimari's husband Aravindan also joined them. Now, although Kannimari's bail was dismissed, she does have the option of filing a bail with the trial court and could claim leniency using section 437 after charges are filed. In more state news, the Chief Minister, Ms. J. Lalita, is back in Chennai city after a trip to her constituency. After a day of farewells, the Chief Minister, in fact, had thanked voters at Ramji Nagar and Inamkulatur earlier today. But these past few days have been action-packed, with visits to the villages and time set apart for grievances to the public as well. It was just at the end of the weekend that Jayalalitha launched schemes worth around 190 crore rupees for the constituency's development. Now, despite the many assurances over diplomatic talks and the times the relations with our neighbouring island nation Sri Lanka has come up in the past months, there still seems to be turbulence over at the high seas. The Sri Lankan Navy captured 5 boats and 23 Indian fishermen from Rameshwaram early this morning. Arrested over charges of trespassing into Lankan waters, the men are expected to be released after due legal procedures are completed. Until now, fisheries officials have been in the process of identifying the arrested, but this is the third such incident in the recent past. Meanwhile, the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister, Ms. Jayalalitha, has urged the Prime Minister to intervene and secure the release of the 23 Indian fishermen, saying frequent incidents of arrest and detention of fishermen crossing the international maritime boundary line was a vexatious issue and was becoming worrisome. In the letter, Amma has said, and I quote, "I am distressed to note that the Sri Lankan Navy has again taken into custody 23 fishermen along with 5 boats because they strayed accidentally into Sri Lankan waters. I seek your kind intervention into this issue and request you to ensure that the Sri Lankan government releases the fishermen immediately." Unquote. Well, NDTV Hindu got the mood among the fishermen community today, and most of them have opted to stay off work in protest.
நேற்று காலையில் 6 மணிக்கு டோக்கன் வாங்கி கடலுக்கு போச்சு எங்கள் போட்டு. ஆனால் இன்றைக்கி 6 மணிக்கு விடிய காலம் வர வேண்டிய போட்டு வரல. என்னென்னு எங்கள் சக மீனவர்கள்ட்ட கேட்டால் உங்கள் போட்டை வந்து 3 நேவி வந்து பிடிச்சிட்டு போயிட்டதாக மீனவர்கள் வந்து சொன்னாங்க. மீனவர்களை பிடிச்சிட்டு தலைமன்னாரில் வச்சுருக்க போட்டை வச்சுருக்கிறதாக சொல்கிறாங்க. ஆனால் இது அரசு நடவடிக்கை, மத்திய சர்க்கார் நடவடிக்கை எடுத்து எங்கள் போட்டையும் எங்கள் ஆளுங்களையும் மீட்டி தரேன்.
நேற்றைய தினம் மீன் பிடிக்க சென்ற படகுகளை 5 ராமேஸ்வரத்திலிருந்து சென்ற படகுகளை 5 படகுகளையும் 23 மீனவர்களையும் இலங்கை கடற்படை வந்து கைது செஞ்சு சிறையில் பிடிச்சு வச்சுருக்காங்க. அந்த படகுகளையும் மீனவர்களையும் மீட்டு அவங்க வந்து ராமேஸ்வரத்தில் வந்து சேர்க்க மட்டும் அரசு சேர்க்க மட்டும் நாங்கள் படகுகள்லாம் கடலுக்கு போகிறதில்லைன்னு ஒரு தீர்மானம் போட்டிருக்கோம்.
When we come back on the late night news, we introduce you to an MLA who started with a humble innings but has earned his way into Port St. George today.